What is going on, all you lovely people? I am James from the Lore Reloaded, your grateful lore master of the day. Hope everybody's doing well today. Hey, I'm going to throw a couple things at you. Then we're just going to say hi to some people and get into it. Of course, always check me out at twitter.com/lore reloaded. It is going to be the best way to figure out of new things coming up, including some surprises I have planned, as well as some other avenues that are going to be happening. If you like the show, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. People don't like hitting the like button anymore. I don't know. It's just one of those things. So let's just look at it. Let's just say hi to some people. We got 14K Liam here. Of course, not a party without 14K Liam. Captain George for the second time, who is such a good guy, been taking care of his sister. Hey, while we're here, let's look at Captain George for a second. Go to channel. Captain George is currently at 195 subscribers. We need 5 subscribers to get him to 200. Let's see if we can get him to 200. So go check him out. Subscribe if you like the channel. Get him up to 200. Don Juan, of course, always here. Always fun. Always enjoyable. We have the Iron Wolverine. We also got Mr. Miles, who's actually early to a stream. That's just mind-blowing. Josh Street. Trip, the trippy one, was going on. Always weird now when Trip calls me Lore and not by my actual real name. So, let's just get into it. Now, this is going to be the precursor to a video that's coming out Friday. Jackson Kennedy, always good to see you. Fan Tex, it's always fun. But on Friday, we are going to be talking about holodeck technology. It was actually requested by a counselor of the lore from my Patreon, patreon.com/lore reloaded. And the question was, is the holodeck safe? Is it dangerous? And as I got to thinking about it, I wonder how... As I got to thinking about it, there's a lot of things that come in to the holodeck. A lot of dangers, a lot of weird little rabbit holes you can go down to. So let's just start walking down let's start going down that. Boompashu, what's with the video picture? I don't know what you're saying. Video picture is good on mine. Let me know if anyone else is having an issue. What's going on? Raw666, a sponsor of the channel. That's why his name is green, and he can show special emoticons. You can do the same thing by hitting the sponsor button up there. So, holo projector technology has actually existed before the 21st century in the Star Trek universe with other aliens. We see it starting to come up in the 22nd, either the 22nd or the 23rd century, I believe. I want to say, I don't know, when was Discovery? Anyway, we see it with Discovery on the Crossfield class, or we see an early version of it. And it's interesting because in Voyager they say there were no holodecks until the 24th century, so you gotta love the continuity there. But I honestly don't have an issue with holo projections starting on the Crossfield class and working its way up. So Aaron Alexander says it's 2255, so the 23rd century. Given how advanced they are, given how technology works, especially within the Federation, I don't think there's a huge deal. And all of that to say, I actually like how Discovery feels more rustic with its holodeck technology. Not like the invisibility, what do they call it? The invisibility field or the invisibility screen versus a cloak. This feels like something that would move into it. And holodeck technology was also on the Constitution class, so it's not like they just made that up. Let's take a look at the holodeck itself, though, and if it's something that humanity could honestly survive. I don't think in our current status as humans, the tribal way we are, I don't know if that full-on holodeck technology would be something good. People are saying right now, like Michael Leith, I'll be honest, I can see myself becoming addicted to the holodeck. Someone else said, was talking about how the holodeck would be like a replacement for the wife or something like that. So I agree. I think that it would be heavily abused. I think holodeck addiction, like we see with Barkley, would be a much larger issue than what we see currently in the next generation. Especially when, and here's something to consider, because Captain George says, I would never leave the holodeck. Especially if you have something like like the Galaxy class starship or a starbase, where it would also, not only would it sit there and make this fantasy for you, it would in fact replicate whatever you needed. So when you ate food, when you drank water, when you drank wine, certain specific objects or things that you created, it would just make that for you and then remove it after that. Not only is there an addiction problem, you'd have no reason to leave. And again, it would also allow you to push for things that were inappropriate or things that weren't healthy. Again, Barkley, we see where he starts... by the way, welcome Finnick MC, becoming a lore master. Barkley takes images of his crewmates and makes them into either cowards or makes them into sex objects, objectifies them. I mean, imagine in the United States military if someone was a coder and they took an image, they took images of those they worked with and started putting them in the in a game where they were required to again either be objectified or to kowtow to him or things of that nature. How much of a violation of trust is that? I'm surprised Barkley kept his commission, because that's insane to me. Trip the Trippy One has good news. Apparently his oldest son will be midshipman in the fall. Well, congratulations. Tell him the Lore Reloaded said congratulations. But then again, is it something that's worth it? Because if you look at the advantages of a holodeck, the ability to train, the ability to figure out issues, the holodeck is used to a great advantage for Starfleet. I do think, honestly, when you think about it, though, is that it breaks the lore, it breaks the world when you think about all the applications that you could use it for. And yeah, World's Best Poop Gaming says, lore that sounds like the USS Callister episode of Black Mirror. It is. It exactly is. That's... Barkley was a benign version of that Black Mirror episode. Absolutely. And Darth Revan brings up a good point, too. In theory, you could transfer your mind to a computer and make a holographic body, and you could take a message and blackmail somebody with it, or you could just live forever. Anthony Duke's helping out. Let me know if you want me to play one of my animations. I'm getting more animation. I keep saying that, but this is truly happening. Thank you so much, Anthony. Let me know if you want me to play anything for you. Look at the USS Prometheus. The USS Prometheus, I think, shows how it breaks the universe. Because with holographic technology, you wouldn't really necessarily even need a real crew. Or if you had a real crew, you would just need a minimalistic one. If you're fighting a war, create a ship that has nothing but holo projectors. You don't have to worry about life support systems. You don't have to worry about really holodecks or recreation centers or food or anything like that. Just create a ship of death that runs a minimal real-life crew or even no crew at all, and have holo projections fight your wars for you. And then go from there. And also, again, the holodeck can not only recreate almost anything you want it to recreate, you can turn the safeties off, and effectively it becomes a death machine of great deathness. And again, so here's what happens. The ship is, let's say that there's a fight. You're in the USS Prometheus that has holo projectors. And you're in a fight and you're being boarded. Every deck that has enemy combatants, just turn that into the nova of the sun and turn off the systems, turn off the safeties and everything like that. Yeah, if we're talking about politics, let's not do politics. Though I haven't seen politics, so I don't know what you guys are talking about. Don Juan says, I'm pretty sure Voyager showed an army of holograms drilling for minerals. Actually, it did much more than that. There was an episode specifically dedicated to holograms, holograms of evilness, going around and killing solids and things like that. It was actually pretty interesting. One of the few, well, not one of the few times, Janeway had broken the Prime Directive, didn't listen to it, even though she says she never does. She always listens to the Prime Directive. She broke the Prime Directive, gave holo technology to an alien species who then created holo characters and began hunting them down like animals. This, of course, pissed off those holo characters, and they went on a killing rampage. So, I mean, it's even talked about that. Let's see. Captain George, oh my gosh, that'd be horrific. Trapped on a ship going into the sun and not being able to turn it around. No, I'm not talking... Maybe you misunderstood me. I'm saying every deck that had an enemy combatant, just turn that deck into the sun or space or something like that. Just absolutely just kill them off. Kill them off with a vengeance. There's no reason not to use this technology in that way. Mortimus Maximus makes a good point. Holo projections running the ship actually means the ship's computer is doing everything. Yeah, I mean, in that way, I guess you wouldn't even need the holo projections unless the ship was being boarded. So you make a good point. Janeway imposes her will and then says she is enlightened. Yeah, that's pretty much Janeway. Yep. 14K Leon, yeah, there was. They actually, one thing Voyager did was explore holo characters and their rights and things, because there was an episode where a hologram did go crazy and kill his crew. Aaron Alexander, I feel like you would be quite a dark captain with these kinds of ideas. Well, the thing is that I would keep my people alive. Sure as hell I'd keep them alive. This reminds me of the anime Psychopaths, where people decorated their rooms with holograms instead of buying furniture. Okay. But then there becomes another question, which is the detriment to humanity. So Captain George kind of pointed this out, and it's a good point. And people have talked about this all the time, but if we get true holographic technology, like we see in the holodeck, I think it would ruin humanity in one of a few ways. Either the humans or everybody, if it's open to anybody, people would begin to lose their ability to go outside or want to interact outside of the holo projection. Like Ready Player One. I haven't seen that, but based on what I've seen, it seems like Ready Player One kind of has a that kind of vibe to it. Again, I haven't seen it, though. Either that or the worst parts of humanity, especially when it comes into... I'm not saying capitalism necessarily is bad, but capitalism can have negative attributes to it. And so the negative attributes of that, where it's so coveted that people would spend their entire fortunes, their ability to live just to be in the holodeck for that amount of time. So I don't think it would be good. I think it would probably ultimately, to a degree, destroy humanity. I don't think we're ready for it. Lore Actual says, "Sir, intruder alert, activate the Holoraptors." Yeah, that's just if you want to play with them. Again, if you have holographic projectors, there's no reason not to go for the insta-kill. Let's see. Do you think that the UFP... Do you think that the United Federation of Planets avoids such issues by making it a part of the economy, that only certain highly contributing members and Starfleet personnel were allowed to use it, otherwise denied? I don't know that I believe that it was only allowed to Starfleet officers. It seemed like something that could be used by anyone. The idea is, and by the way, Captain George has, or whoever just said, I think it's Captain George, but whoever just said it had the right idea. 31 likes, 84 people watching. Slam that like button. Come on, just do it. Do it and feel proud about it. But I think the idea is that during the Next Generation, Deep Space Nine, and even the original series, humanity had evolved so much that it wasn't impactful like it would be right now. Which kind of makes sense, especially in the Next Generation. If humanity has evolved, then I think that it wouldn't necessarily be an issue. I don't know that we could ever hit that standard, though. You know? Darren Wagner, I also find it hard to believe that the Federation wouldn't pursue android technologies. Even with Data dead, they still have lore and storage and B4 playing tiddlywinks. B4 playing. There were some episodes, if you remember, in TNG. I'm sorry, Michael Leith. Which statement? Michael Leith, let me know which statement I gave to Captain George, and I will correct myself, good sir. And Colin Hudson, welcome to becoming a lore master. But we did have some statements or discussions about androids and the creation of androids with Data and things like that. But it really wasn't as prominent as we saw beforehand. If there was whole sex, would there... What? Okay, Josh Tree, I don't know what you're talking about. The editor has arrived. Spot is here, otherwise known as Pumpkin, is his real name. The most horrible wars in history could force humanity to change. I disagreed, that Fishboy. We've went through some horrific wars, and while we've gotten a little better... Can you not hit me with your tail, please? I'd appreciate that. While we've gotten a little better, I don't think that we've increased enough. I don't think we've improved enough. So I'm not sure. Do you think that holograms would be treated like humans treat androids of Westworld? I haven't watched Westworld, so I couldn't really speak to that. Scott Adams. And DV, that's what I was talking about. So Scott Adams says holodecks would be the last invention. I do think that it would be incredibly detrimental. Again, either it would be too expensive, people would spend life savings to be a part of it, or no one would leave. Even look like, and I'm not... There is such a thing as having an addiction to a game. And I think that... that would be tenfold, you know? So, I don't know. James, why use hologram projectors when you have grav plates? Grav plate ping pong, anyone? That does not sound entertaining to me. Aaron Alexander, how do you do the logo thing? Well, that's a great question, Aaron. Raw666 is actually a sponsor. If you're watching on... your computer, if you look up and you see the green sponsor button, hit that, become a sponsor. I think it's $4.99 a month, and you can do everything Raw 666 can. And there's even some more emoticons coming out. So here's let me ask you this. With holographic technology, would we create ships that would basically just have holographic people? and then send them off to do the things that would be dangerous for us to do or that we wouldn't want to do. And at that point, is that wrong? And this was discussed in Voyager with the Doctor. And we never really got an answer to that, I don't think. Are holograms actually people, or will they become people? And if so, if holograms and holodecks and stuff are considered people, wouldn't that make the ship a person? Because effectively, a hologram is just what the ship is, what the ship is telling them. It's everything within the ship itself. And so, where do we go with that? I wouldn't mind if the Federation outlawed or restricted hologram characters post-Dominion Wars to avoid the controversy. Then it becomes kind of like a Star Wars thing. One of the reasons, and I know Anti-Trekker gets so out of sorts about this, but one of the reasons why in Star Wars you wipe the memories of a droid every couple of years is to prevent them from becoming self-aware. And that's been established for quite a while. The subtext is in the originals, but it may have not been in the originals, but it definitely was in like Clone Wars and Rebels and things of that nature. So, I mean, there is that consideration, and you could do the same thing to the AI. You could do the same thing to the computers. Have them wiped every so often when it comes to the holograms themselves. And someone else brought up some good points too, and I don't know if I can find it. Where is it? So another thing that we do, because again, the holodeck is so world-breaking when you think about its uses. So how about we do this? Create a holodeck that's on 100% of the time. And at that point, that holodeck would be where the crew quarters are. And so now you just have one room, or maybe a group of rooms, that would project the areas for the crew to be. And if for any reason you lose power or the holodeck stops working, have like an emergency cargo bay that everyone can fit into until it can get fixed. Why wouldn't you be able to do that? The holodeck is powerful enough to allow for it. And if it fails, it's not like everybody's going to be squished or killed. You have safeties on. Raw 666. Yes and no on the ship question. For I do think organizations would, but I think some people would do it for what's been told and another to actually experience, says Raw 666. I'm not sure what you're referring to, buddy. Pull that back in. I prefer to think of hologram characters like Voyager's EMH and Vic Fontaine as just that, characters. No matter how lifelike they seem, they are not. That's really the only way to go for longevity. It's interesting to look at Vic Fontaine and to look at the EMH. Because effectively, they are both as powerful, are equally powerful in their programming. Vic Fontaine doesn't mind being a hologram, though. He doesn't care. He just wants to keep doing what he's doing and live his life and be deactivated when he wants to be deactivated. And, you know, he just wants to entertain people. He doesn't care. He's basically like a YouTuber. A person that has no life, and it comes on for the entertainment of others and then is turned off as soon as they are no longer entertaining. Sounds exactly what the life of a YouTuber is. The EMH wants to be more than the sum of his parts, though. You know? So, I don't know. That's interesting. And it's... How can you justify one being advanced over the other? Bob Francis, you can't fit the entire crew in a 10 meter by 10 meter room. In fact, you can, good sir. If we look at the next generation, when they're using the holodeck, you will have characters on opposite sides of cities or opposite sides of forests, and they have to find each other. So it can actually project out that far. That may have issues from consistency and continuity, but you can, in fact, doing it. Who cleans up the holodeck messes? That's a great question. It's actually done by the computer, which would just take the liquid and completely and utterly destroy it. Do you realize that the arguments you make about holodiction are very similar to arguments people use to make about radio, then TV, then video games, and then the internet? But here's the thing, Mr. Miles. I do think that there is such a thing as an addiction to almost anything. I think people can become addicted to things. I think people can become addicted to the radio, though I've never heard that. To the TV, have heard that. To video games, I've heard that. To the internet. Now, politicians will try to work it up and say that it's something that's killing or destroying society. But sure, there are examples where people have been addicted, and so that is something that would need to be talked about and something that would need to be addressed, right? So just to say, well, people have overblown what addiction is. Just because people have overblown addiction doesn't mean it doesn't happen. So, Don Juan, who are the two lovely ladies on the cover photo? Are you talking about my thumbnail? That would be from, I can find it again for you. It was from a website who was selling the swimsuits. And apparently they didn't care. Apparently it didn't have a copyright attached to it. So there you go. By joining Starfleet, you would give any qualified person to use your profile. If caught using personal templates for naughty stuff, you'd be reprimanded. Yeah, but Barclay didn't really get all that reprimanded. And he straight up objectified women and was not very polite to males. So I think there should be some restrictions on that. You would think that they would have some kind of protocol. If someone tried to use your image or the image of anybody, the computer would require senior level access. And if it was a crewman, captain level access. So, yeah. Do you think there would be a backlash, like a group that refuses to use holodecks because they are fake, like people who prefer books over ebooks? There's always a backlash. People are always saying, well, the internet, people don't talk. Adam Ruins Everything. Sometimes he's straight on, sometimes he's not. But Adam Ruins Everything has a good view of the internet, about how the internet has connected us more than anyone else ever has. And the people who say, oh, look at the internet, we're not talking to each other anymore, really are the same people who are talking about how books or the written word or anything like that has disconnected us. Really, we're more connected than we ever were. Nog was addicted to the Vic Fontaine program. Nog, Barclay are all good examples of the dangers, I think, of the holograms and holodecks and things. And it's really crazy that they didn't address it more than they did. How does the work... Whoops. Where was it? How does that work? Hollow rooms only have a limited amount of space. To project a whole city, you will need a room as big as the city. Not necessarily, Dr. Chris. Look, I didn't write how holodecks work. I'm doing the research on it because I'm coming out with a video Friday. But here is how, in theory, it is supposed to work. Which is, you have a holodeck, you walk in, it's a 10 by 10 room, kind of like you said, and then it will start projecting out where you go. In The Next Generation, in Deep Space Nine, and in Voyager, you have characters that will go either into opposite sides of a house, if not into opposite sides of a city. And they're that far away. They actually have to travel to get to each other. So, how does that work? I'm not saying I know how that works, but I'm saying that's that's the way it does. Let's talk about hypospray addiction. I am sure there would be a hypospray addiction, but generally that's probably drugs. All new multimedia technology is quickly used for porn. Porn is why VHS won the format. Okay. Well, I mean, given our species and how we are written to be, that does not surprise me at all. Do you think homes had a smaller, like a TV-sized holographic unit rather than a holodeck or a suite? And maybe Starfleet is the best quality deck. Is like the best quality deck. I don't know. We don't really get to see the insides or civilian life. Anytime we see the inside of a civilian house, it doesn't appear like they have like the little small desk things, but we never really see anything beyond that. If 100 people go into a 10 by 10 room while the program is running, what happens when it loses power mid-program? I think they would all just appear next to each other with the safeties on and everything like that. I don't think there's necessarily a huge issue. Now, you're right. Maybe if you have 1,000 people in the room, it could get a little dicey. But, I mean, the technology is what the technology is. In theory, you could replace so many things, especially the Prometheus really doesn't need that many rooms or that many decks to it. You just have 20 holodecks, and all of them have a specific task. The only problem, I guess, would be the fear of power going out, but I'm sure there's ways to work around that, you know? So, I don't know. My understanding is that the holodeck creates a divide between the two people to give them the illusion of distance. You're welcome to go look and watch. The Next Generation is the one where it's most prominent. They're literally, because I rewatched it. I forget the name of the episode, but it was like one of the Dick Grayson ones, literally on the opposite sides of a city. And it's going back and forth, and they actually have to travel to each other, which is part of the plot. It takes a while for them to get back to each other in this 10 by 10 room. And they couldn't turn it off. Let's see. Ross666 says, talking about using people and stuff, it was not against regulations at the time due to not thinking that far. So you're telling me when someone creates a holodeck and they know how humans work, they're not going to think, I wonder if they're going to recreate their buddy and have sex with that person. Okay. No Strape. So how does it create space to do that? I don't know how the tech... Through magic. Through tech. I don't know how it does. I know that it does. They also, so to give you a sense of scope here, they also have a ship that's able to go faster than light and can exist in space and not be crumpled up. They have the ability to go through wormholes that take them to opposite sides of the galaxy. They talk to beings who are... the most powerful beings that apparently call themselves one letter in the alphabet. I don't know how any of that works. I got no idea. When it comes to how the science of it works, I don't know. I just know that's how it works. So just like when the holodeck creates a city and they can exist on opposite sides, they can also go through a wormhole and talk to a species that wants to kill them all, who has addicted an alien subspecies to be fighters. You know, I mean, I'm not trying to be like a jerk here. I don't know, guys. I'm telling you what happens in the episode. You have to remember that people that invited the holodeck had the TNG mindset. Okay. I don't know. To be fair, I may not be seeing what Mr. Miles is saying, so if you repeat it and I don't see you, please use my name, do Lore Reloaded, so that I can address it. Section 31 starship that is a solid battleship with one command deck. The rest is just replicators and holodecks. If anyone tries to board, we just give them a mind F. Yeah, I mean, again, when you look at holodeck technology, it destroys the universe. It's kind of like replicator technology, honestly, when you think about it. Once you have replicator technology and can replicate most things, you know, where do you go from that? Mr. Miles helping out the lore, becoming the current Super Chat hero of the night. $1. Thank you so much. But yeah, Mr. Miles, if I'm missing what you're saying, then just do like @Lore Reloaded, or you can do a super chat so I can try to address it. Why is the crew always making a big deal out of disengaging protocols? I mean, if you want to go rock climbing in the 21st century, no one is going to call you crazy for actually wanting to climb. Well, I mean, disengaging protocols, I think, is a big deal because people can get hurt or get killed, right? I actually like there it is, Mr. Miles. So hold on, I'll do you in a second, Mr. Miles. I actually like that you need 2 senior personnel, 2 senior officers to disengage the safeties. And I think there should be an alert that goes to like the counselor or the captain or something like that. Like when you have Balana just openly disengaging safety protocols and almost nearly getting herself killed quite a few times, there should be some kind of alert system for that. Mr. Miles says, disturbing thought. Tripp said everything on a starship gets recycled, even poop. So cleaning up the holodecks means, yeah, recycled. Well, yeah. Yeah, it's made into your coffee. If the holodeck is 10 by 10, you would divide it into many small boxes. Each box holds 1 person and acts like a mini holodeck, some stacked on top of each. I mean, it could. So here's what they do. The holodeck creates 10 holodecks, and those holodecks creates 10 holodecks, and then you have enough space. In the Navy, they go ape-s on you for overwriting a failsafe on a washing machine. Washing machines have failsafes? Because that's hilarious if they do. By the way, shout out to Trent, becoming a lore master. Welcome to the fold, good sir. That Vegas-class holoship was able to replicate an entire valley and miles of an alien planet. So a 10 by 10 holodeck can do an Irish village with these. That's a good point, Orotakuwa. Look at that holoship. That holoship was not as big as what they were trying to portray, right? So, and you would think with that many people, somebody's going to go rock climbing, somebody's going to do something that's outside of the standard, right? So I don't, yeah, that's a good point. I like that. See, Orotakuwa, that's why you make the big bucks. Exploring Fate. Holodeck could work like an online game today where 2 gamers or people can view their area of a map. Since it's a light, it could be a project to each person, like a different area of the city. Sure. No Stripe. I'd not want to live in a holodeck. Too many moving parts to break and go wrong. I would be fine to live in a room with holo emitters that could change to look like anything in my room. Yeah, so the question was... by the way, guys, 110 people watching. Don't forget to hit that like button and definitely share this so we can have more conversation. The more people watching, the more conversations we have. The question on my Patreon at patreon.com/lore reloaded. There's a tier that allows you to jump ahead so that I can do a video. Anytime a video is requested, I put it in a queue. But you can be on this tier and it gets put at the top of the queue. And the question was, holodeck. Is it dangerous or is it not? Here's a spoiler. It's really, really dangerous. A holodeck it's stupid dangerous. I would never at any point walk into a holodeck given how dangerous they are. So many things can go wrong. And something else to add to your nightmares is that if you have a transporter accident, you can be put into a holodeck made into a mindless zombie where you think you're whatever that holodeck was playing until they figure out how to save you. Stupid amounts of dangerous. So I'm not sure that I would ever want to be in a holodeck given everything that's done. Aaron Alexander, you heading out, buddy? Talk to you later, man. Thanks for coming by. Captain George, my video will be on the lore of the holodeck and if it's dangerous. Not necessarily just, the problems with it. There was a TNG episode where a guy had created a holographic village to live in. Do you think that was unhealthy for him? Absolutely. I think, well, I think it's context. Let me say this. I think that generally if you create a place to live in, or you try to escape and only go there and stay there, that it is dangerous, that it is unhealthy. I do think that if you are going through some trauma, like PTSD or something like that, and the holodeck is used if the holodeck is used to help you get through that, then I don't necessarily have a complete issue with it. We got the Star Trek Apologist channel says, could I get a shout out? I so need subscribers. So I'll give you a shout out, Apologist channel, the Star Trek Apologist. I will say this, a better way of getting subscribers is, and while I appreciate the super chat, it definitely helps out the channel, is to make videos. Go make, like, say, take your problems with the Enterprise A, B, and C, and on Twitter, shoot a message to, like, me or Trek Yards or the Templin Institute and say, hey, I made this video. I think the Enterprise has some issues. What do you guys think? But yeah, so taking a look at his channel, just to side check for a second. I'm actually subscribed to you. I think I've been subscribed to you for a while. Yeah, I remember your channel. I'm surprised I missed the problems with the Enterprise A, B, and C. Yeah, go check it out. Looks like a Star Trek channel. Not just because of the super chat, but yeah, I don't hate it. Take a look at his channel. If you guys like it, let me know. Lore Reloaded. What if the safety protocols were to protect the ship rather than the crew? I'm not sure what you're asking, World's Best Gaming. Go give me a little more about that. And oh wow, 1701. I didn't catch that, Captain George. That's awesome. Okay, yeah, definitely go to the Apologist, because he has a sense of humor. I love that. What's going on, Star Wars Guru? Hey guys, hold on, everybody. Relax. Star Wars Guru is here. Don't underestimate yourself. A lot of us found Anti-Trekker, especially because of you. Yeah, Anti-Trekker actually got his start from the channel. It's funny. His first video that got into like 20 to 30,000 was an attack on one of my videos. He came into his own. His channel is because he's a great creator. Don't get me wrong, but it's interesting. His start was first started on. He came on my channel, hanging out with me. And then he did a video attacking my video, and that one got like 30,000 views. Exploring Fate, thank you so much. I appreciate it. Hey, if you guys want me to play anything, I got Cena, I got Shia LaBeouf, I got iDubbbz, I got random Star Wars. Just let me know. I posit that World's Best Poop Gaming says, I posit that perhaps they aren't so much worried about the crew members, but the ships itself. People get injured and they can be healed with fancy 24th century technology. But I think that those protocols consider the most extreme example of a dangerous thing that the holodeck might be asked to recreate. You can throw a grenade in the holodeck and you'll get an explosion. So that's an interesting thing to consider. I never really thought of that, but I don't think that the holodeck can damage itself. I don't really think that it is, because consider all of the things you've been asked to do on the holodeck. It has ships fighting each other, ships exploding. You've had just the destruction wholesale of entire rooms that people are in, cannons firing at each other. I would say that when the Next Generation first started, and you saw Picard pick up a hollow rock and throw the holographic rock and hit the side of the wall, and it kind of fizzled and stuff, that at that point it may be dangerous. But when you look at late TNG, Deep Space Nine, and Voyager, I don't think the holodeck could hurt itself. You even have the ships again exploding or being told to explode. The Devil's Due, off topic, but what do you think of Star Trek Discovery's Victory is Life? Actually, if you haven't, go to twitch.tv/lore reloaded. I do think, because I am actually playing it over there, and we have fleet operations. I actually have my own Star Trek Online fleet that wouldn't exist if not for Old Fire, Master, Creo, and others who are taking care of it right now because I'm going through some stuff. But Victory is Life, I like it overall. Some of it doesn't make sense. Some of the lore isn't really consistent. I don't like that the Herc are bugs. But I overall I do like it, and I think it's revitalizing Star Trek Online, and I think Star Trek Online is worthy of being revitalized. And while I'm thinking about it, Cryptic AI, one of the developers, will be here and talking to me on the 12th at 9 p.m. Central Standard on this channel, and we're going to be talking a lot about it. My Star Trek Online fleet is Guardians of the Lore. Guardians spelled G-A-U-R-D-I-A-N-S because I'm an idiot. The best thing you could do is actually go to my Discord. I have over like 150 to 200 people now on my Discord. There it is right there. Click on there, ask to be a part of the lore, and they'll take, or ask to be a part of the fleet, and they'll take care of it. Let's see. Yeah, and if you're watching this, don't forget to hit that like button. Hit the like button. Great topic. Star Trek Voyager holodeck did break itself when they were battling World War I and the Americans attacked. They punched a hole in the ship. I don't remember that, and that's inconsistent. Though, Voyager is a good part to point. So, remember when the Hirogen took over the ship and they were using the holodeck to have the crew constantly fight and stuff? They're in drastically different parts when they're doing that. I don't remember it blowing a hole in the ship. That is completely inconsistent with every other instance. Though, again, surprise, surprise, Voyager being inconsistent. You know, color me perplexed by that occurring, right? Hybrid Jack. I'm surprised Section 31 allows such ticking time bombs to have become such an important part of the Federation society. So Jack, can you expand on that for me a little bit? I'm confused or curious. And yeah, Mario, that was with the Hirogen. I don't remember that part then. I actually was thinking maybe that was a part of the same one. I don't remember that part. Again. Okay, I agree with you guys that it happened. I just don't remember that part. And that's inconsistent with how technology works. Let's talk about the bullets that were used in First Contact. I have to be honest. I don't think... I know what Picard said. Let me start out with this. I know what Picard said. Right there with you. But I don't think they were holographic bullets that killed the Borg. And here's why. The holographic bullet may be, up until the point, able to pierce the skin, but once it goes through and there's no more holographic projection, the bullet would disappear. At most, it would open up a wound. Also, it would be more consistent with continuity if, while firing the bullets, the computer actually used real bullets in the holographic gun. Everything about that scene, about the bullets being holographic, isn't consistent with how the technology works. It's only consistent if the computer replicated those bullets, which the computer could and would replicate the bullets, because that's the only way the technology works in other instances. That's my 2 cents on it. It is a huge inconsistency if those bullets were actually holographic. I don't think they are. You want to blow up the ship and run away? You coward. If you were any other man, I'd kill you where I stand. Okay, I don't know what that's about. That's from the movie. Duh. I was trying to tie it into the holographic projections. But without the protocols, the holodeck doesn't know to keep the explosion limits down or to stop the projection, thus risking damage to the people, the holodeck itself, and the ship. Yeah, but the inconsistency there is, again, we see things blow up. We see bullets fly everywhere. We see everything occur, and only in the special magic circumstance with Voyager does it seem to make an impact. So, it's possible. Now, if we take my logic, so if we leave if we use my logic with Voyager, here's an interesting thing. And someone said it, and I'm sorry if I miss who said it, but they believe that the Hirogen knocked it up to 11. And so if we were going to try to justify that lore-wise, here's what I would say. I agree. The ship, they probably took the holodeck and they knocked it up to 11. Just sent it up and, you know, made it as deadly as they could. They were then running the holodeck 24/7. They had all systems, really, of Voyager worried about the holodeck and the sickbay. And so perhaps they were taxing the system to the point where it created, when they fired whatever it was, if it was a mortar or whatever, the computer actually did create the actual mortar, because that would be what would make it dangerous, but wasn't able to stop the mortar or turn it back into a hologram in time, thus damaging the ship. That's the best I can get if I was to explain it. Marlon the Fish helping out, saying, can't leave you less than $10 from a goal. Thanks for being my background noise. As always, keep up the great work. Hey, I'm here for you, Marlon the Fish. And thank you so much for finishing that out. Guys, I try to be honest and transparent with you, which is why I bring it up sometimes. And I try not to talk about it all the time because I'm just here to entertain you. But the goals that I put actually have a reason or a rhyme to them. So generally, on weekdays, I try to do the goal at what it is because the video and the AdSense take care of it. On weekends, I increase it a little bit because I don't have any videos going. So when we meet the goal, I am so very appreciative of that, and it does literally allow me to buy all kinds of cool things to increase your experience here, as well as keep the lights on and keep my kids fed. So I thank you so much. Lore. Holodecks are Time Lord technology. They stole it from the Time Lords. Well, not necessarily stole it. If you've watched my videos, you know that the Federation at some points actually had the technology alliance with the Gallifreyans. And so it's possible it wasn't stolen, it was just used. Don Juan says apparently not. Did you say something to me, Don? I apologize if you did and I missed it. Why would the Borg only adapt to energy weapons? So that has been a consistent question that comes up. The only way I could justify that is either they don't take on weapons like that enough for it to matter, so they haven't adapted to bullets for it to really make any kind of impact, because they're usually fighting forces that have phasers or lasers or whatnot, or really they have armor, and their armor protects them against it, and so you know, Picard just got lucky. He hit some of the soft fleshy points. Here's a good point that I'm kind of reticent to talk about, but I'm going to go ahead and get into it. And I think Cisco actually brings it up and talks about it in Deep Space Nine. So I'm going to start this off with, let's be nice and let's not get into any kind of conversation where I have to get rude with people. World's Best Poop Gaming says, it seems that when black characters like Worf, Geordi, and Guinan go to dates before the 1960s, they don't experience any racism from the other holodeck characters. That also was a huge point, a huge story arc in Deep Space Nine with Vic Fontaine and everything. So one thing, what's going on, Enderman of Doom? Glad to see you. One thing that they discuss is a space. It's what the hell is it called? I want to say it's the spatial awareness, but it's not that. It's basically the computer doesn't recognize that part of history. They don't they don't see color or race or anything. And it's not just that. The computer prevents the holo characters from generally noticing when something is off in a time period piece, especially in the Next Generation. So if you had someone walk in a Starfleet uniform in the Next Generation, for the holo characters, they just don't notice the comm badge. They just don't notice the advanced technology. And that's in the computer itself. And I'll say this, Cisco, and what was it? The Vic Fontaine one. Let's see, Star Trek, DS9, Vic Fontaine, mobster. I think it's Bada Bing, Bada Bang. That sounds right. Yeah, Bada Bing, Bada Bang. The crew of Deep Space Nine try to get Cisco to help Vic Fontaine, who's a holographic program, and Cisco has a huge issue with it. He says, you know, look at that program. I don't want to help out. First off, he's a hologram. Who cares about that? Which I enjoyed that a bit because it shows some consistency. And then he comes back and he says, plus, look at that period of time. People that looked like me weren't allowed to be in there. Why would I want to whitewash history like that? It happened, and we shouldn't ignore it. And they actually address it. They address how the computer works, and then they address why, at least why some of the crew thinks it's okay to enjoy that time period, even if it's not historically accurate. And it's an interesting conversation. One thing I like about the guy who plays Cisco, and if you've ever watched him or been to a convention or seen him talk, he is so utterly different from the character he plays. He's such a good actor. He doesn't remind me anything of Cisco. But one thing I do like about that actor is that when he had some control, he liked exploring racial divides and racial tensions. But he also was very upbeat and saying, hey, Cisco wasn't a great captain because he was black. He was a great captain because he was a great captain. Honestly, you guys should watch some of Avery Brooks' interviews and stuff. Laura Actual, thank you so much. $5. When the size of the ship or room is inconsistent with what we see, Doctor Who effect to the rescue. Yeah, again, the Gallifreyan tech treaty allowed them to do stuff. That's why you had the Sovereign ship that also had 29 decks, but could go to deck 31. Enderman of Doom, have you heard of my movement on making a fan fiction where Q makes an alternate reality? We're starting in the TNG area. Ships are alive and sentient. I've not heard of that. You're probably not going to be able to link it, Enderman, but if you tell me more about it, I can try to share it. So, exploring fate, the Doctor made a holo novel. They show a clip of his novel freeing other holograms' awareness with his mobile emitter. What do you think his effect would be on holograms in the Federation? I think that after what was it? Author. I think that the way holograms are looked at was probably drastically impacted. So when you have the Doctor who made that program and who made the and started pushing for the rights, and then that holo novel got out into Starfleet, and then you started having even holograms playing the holo novel. I think you probably saw a huge ripple effect, and I think that it probably did begin to split, political-wise, how holograms were looked at and holographic rights. And it's a shame we didn't see more of that. Though I don't know where you would go with it. Robert Humaston, I just got notified 53 minutes. Tell you what, let me... If you could, if you're on Twitter, tweet at YouTube or at YouTube team or whatever. Tweet YouTube and let them know. I also just took a picture of that, and I will send it after this thing goes on and let them know about that. They said they fixed that issue, but I guess they didn't. Make sure you hit the bell to ensure that you get it instantly, or at least that's what they say. But anyway, so yeah, I don't know where you would go with holographic rights once you agree that some holograms are sentient. Because at that point, how do we know for sure which programs are sentient and which are not? And where do we... How do you discuss that? I mean, you have to shut off all holographic characters. If you can't be sure, we have to be conservative on that and just assume that they all could be and not create it. And one of the things, I understand why author may not have referenced it. Because if they had referenced the TNG episode, then they might have had unfair comparisons to it. But it goes back to what Guinan said, right? Which was... Man, my memory today. Where she was talking about disposable people. And I wish I could find the actual quote. It wants to send me to watch online, but I'm not going to be doing that. But imagine a whole fleet of people with just disposable, that are disposable, you know? And that's exactly how the AI are treated. Not AI, I keep saying AI. How the holograms are treated. And so it would have been interesting to have those illusions. CS2 Al says, probably you need to design a sentience test, similar to a Turing test. Yeah, but... Michael Leith have to run. Thanks for coming, buddy. All AI would really be able to, for all intents and purposes, meet the test of a measure of a man, I think, for all intents and purposes. I'm open to that. What do you guys think? We look at Measure of a Man. We look at all of the requirements, which was has to be self-aware, has to be well, Measure of a Man script. Let's see. Has to have intelligence, self-awareness, and consciousness. In most EMHs, the EMH for sure, but most holograms would well, not most, but a lot of holograms would meet that, in my opinion. What do you guys think? And then for Guinan's point, well, consider that in the history of man, in the history of many worlds, there have always been disposable creatures. They do the dirty work. They do the work that no one else wants to do because it's too difficult or too hazardous. And an army of data is all disposable. You don't have to think about their welfare. You don't have to think about how they feel. Whole generations of disposable people. Yeah, see you, Trip. Again, congratulations to your son. Seriously, let him know that the congratulations from the lore. We all wish him well. I consider the Doctor a sentient, and I can't remember how the whole arc turned out, but I think it should have been in the Doctor's favor. So he wasn't considered a person, but he was considered an artist. Remember where... and apparently there is a subsection where if you're considered an artist, you have rights. That he's not full rights, but he says rights. If Anti-Trekker buys me a ticket for Solo, I will go watch it. Is Anti-Trekker live right now? Is that why we keep bringing him up? If you want to know more, watch carefully for my comments. I'd love to get your thoughts on sentient starships. I mean, it's all context. There have been sentient ships in Trek. So, you know, we got Goraria subscribe to the channel, becoming a lore master. Welcome. Wasn't there EMH that actually became a Starfleet officer? Yeah, there was. He was called the Doctor, ironically. He never actually came up with a name. I don't believe he actually did come up with a name. By the way, guys, we'll probably be ending it pretty shortly. Anti-Trekker isn't live. I mean, if he wants to buy me a ticket, he's more than welcome to buy me a ticket. I've been wondering why they don't just have an entire crew of holograms with only a few engineers to help the upkeep. We actually talked about that at the beginning. I think the USS Prometheus was designed to only have 4 people, especially since it was during the height of the Dominion War, and they didn't really have people to crew ships. And so they were starting to use holographic ships with holographic people. I really think that's where they were going. Yeah, they gave him a name in in-game. Don Juan just wanting to see his name up here. Don Juan, you were already subscribed, buddy. Don't even play. You've been a lore master, good sir. They gave him a name, but if you remember, Janeway went back in time and completely redid that, unwrote it, erased it. She didn't care about his name. She didn't care that he got married. She didn't care that he had a family. Screw that. She had to save at best a dozen people. So he didn't have a name because that was rewritten. Would I do a review if you bought me a ticket? I mean, yes, but if I think Anti-Trekker is going to buy me a ticket, so it doesn't matter. I'm doing well. I'm doing well, Kyler. How you doing? You doing okay? Laura Actual has not actually caught up to the video. So what's funny is he's been commenting in the past. I don't think he's actually watching this with everybody else. I think that Voyager's EMH could be considered sentient because of how long he was active. If they had their chief medical officer and only turned him off and on as they needed him, I don't think he would be. Well, that asks a question then. Should Starfleet and people regularly wipe the memory cores of holograms so that they don't become people? And if they do become people, at that point, are they given rights? And if we know they become people if we leave them on long enough, do we have the right to prevent them from becoming a person? Thomas Potts talking about how I said the doctor had a family. He just had a human wife. It was, I mean, basically useless. Just you know, human wives. I'm surprised that Starfleet doesn't use Omni-Tool-like devices akin to the Mass Effect war. I'm surprised they don't as well. I guess you could consider the tricorder a little bit. If you destroy the warp core of a sentient starship, it's like destroying a human heart. It'll kill the ship. Agreed. I can see Janeway and Picard defending holographic rights. Picard because of Data and the exocomps, and I missed it. I'm sorry, it's gone. Anthony Dukes, enjoy the Solo movie. Okay. I will specifically use that to go see the Solo movie because you donated it, Anthony. So I'll also do a breakdown of it for you. Since we know that time travel works in Star Trek when you go back and change an event in the past, it makes a new timeline, so the in-game future is still there without Janeway. Okay. I mean, whatever you need to justify Janeway's actions, man. Whatever makes you feel better. Yeah. Vic Fontaine was turned on permanently because of Nog and his arrangement with Core. I don't think permanently. He was on for quite a while, though. All right, guys. I think we are actually going to end it there. I really appreciate it. Had a good time. I got to finish this fun little script for Friday. Oh, tomorrow. Let me show you guys something you look forward to. Something as a kind of a, just to give you a little taste, a little tasty taste, if you will. Give me a second. Ba-ba-da-ba-ba. Where is it? Here it is. Let's see if I can do this. I'm not sure that I can. Give me a second. I'll give you guys a little bit of a filler of what's going to be showing tomorrow. Why is that no? There you go.
If your moderate to severe
Oh!
ulcerative colitis or Crohn's symptoms are holding you back, and your current treatment...
Well, that didn't work. And watch me get hit demonetized because of that. Give me one more second. Let me see if I can fix it for you guys real quick. One more second. Let's try it one more time. Yeah, I'm using OBS. I like OBS. I like it a lot better than the alternative. What's up, lore masters? Today we'll be doing a Lorecraft episode and theorizing what would have happened if the Terran Empire invaded the Alpha and Beta quadrants. Feel free to give me your thoughts in the comments on if you agree with what I've put here or how you would have done it. Before we can really get into the events though, we need to set the criteria about when the invasion occurred and what advantages existed between all of the powers. For the purposes of this scenario, the invasion of the Alpha and Beta quadrants occurs in the late 21st century, early 25th, and this will of course be post-Dominion War. We will be assuming that the events of Deep Space Nine did not occur when it comes to that of the Mirror Universe, which is no real loss since Deep Space Nine had an incredibly bad story arc in regards to the Terran Empire. Frankly, I hate that they destroyed the Terran Empire if I'm being honest. So yeah, I mean the Dominion War happened, everything else happened, but the Terran Empire will have continued to progress and become the Mirror Starfleet. Looking at the Terran Empire, they would also have a technological advantage given the ravaging and enslaving of most of the Alpha and Beta quadrants. This would include the destruction and enslavement of the Klingon Empire, the Romulan Star Empire, and others. All of their systems, including their weapon systems, would be a mishmash of technologies allowing